one more sleep. After 9 days in deep space, 9 days that took humanity further from Earth than we have ever been, the Artemis II crew is coming home. Splashdown is tomorrow, and we have the full countdown.
Plus, the NASA scientists who literally screamed when the astronauts spotted something nobody expected to see on the moon. We'll tell you what it was and why it matters so much for future missions.
A brand new class of star has been discovered. Meet Gandalf and Moon-Sized, two cosmic oddballs that have just rewritten the stellar rulebook.
Mars still very much not welcoming visitors. We have the science to prove it. And 4 planets are lining up in the April sky for a rare celestial parade.
And we close with the most relatable space story in years. What happens when 4 astronauts take their iPhones 250,000 miles from Earth?
Spoiler, the photos are extraordinary.
Hello, and welcome to Astronomy Daily, Season 5, Episode 85. I'm Anna.
And I'm Avery. It is Thursday, the 9th of April, 2026, and we are broadcasting from astronomydaily.io on the Bytes.com podcast network.
It has been a big week in space, and it is about to get even bigger. Let's go.
I'm ready.
It is day 9 of the Artemis II mission, and right now, the Orion spacecraft, callsign Integrity, is hurtling back toward Earth at extraordinary speed. Tomorrow evening, it will splash down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego. And when it does, 4 astronauts will have completed the most significant human spaceflight since the Apollo program.
The splashdown is scheduled for around 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Friday morning for us here in Australia and New Zealand. And NASA says the weather window is looking favorable. The USS John P. Murtha, the naval recovery vessel, is already on station in the Pacific with helicopters and divers ready to retrieve the crew.
And Avery, before any of that can happen, there's a critical sequence of events. The crew module, the part that carries the astronauts, has to separate from the service module. Then it plunges into the atmosphere at around 25,000 miles an hour. There will be a blackout period of several minutes when mission control loses all contact as the plasma sheath forms around the capsule.
And then parachutes. First the drogue chutes to slow them down dramatically, then the main parachutes, and Orion drops to about 17 miles per hour for a soft ocean landing. After 9 days and nearly 700,000 miles of travel.
Now, the heat shield. This is the thing that has been quietly keeping engineers awake at night. After the uncrewed Artemis I mission, inspectors found that chunks of the heat shield had sheared away unevenly during re-entry. NASA and Lockheed Martin spent 4 years investigating and redesigning it. Both say they are highly confident it will perform perfectly tomorrow, but it will be the real-world test.
Once safely aboard the Murtha, the crew will undergo medical evaluations before flying to Johnson Space Center in Houston. Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Koch, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen.
History makers, every single one of them. Victor Glover, the first person of color to travel to the moon. Christina Koch, the first woman. Jeremy Hansen, the first person from a country other than the United States to reach lunar distance.
And when they get home, President Trump has apparently already promised them a White House visit. I'd say they've earned it.
We'll, of course, have the full splashdown coverage in tomorrow's episode of Astronomy Daily. Set those alarms.
Now, while all the drama of the homeward journey has been unfolding, the science team at Johnson Space Center has been going absolutely wild over what the crew observed during the lunar flyby on Monday.
And I do mean wild, Avery. NASA's lunar science lead, Kelsey Young, described, and this is a direct quote from the press conference, audible screams of delight in the science evaluation room.
What were they screaming about?
Micrometeorite impact flashes. During the solar eclipse phase of the flyby, when the moon blocked the sun and Orion was in darkness, the crew spotted between 4 and 6 distinct flashes of light on the lunar surface. Brief, colorless pinpricks of light lasting just milliseconds. Each one was a tiny rock, traveling thousands of miles per hour, slamming into the moon.
Now, scientists had hoped the crew might see 1 or 2 of these. Apollo astronauts reported a handful across all the missions. But to see multiple flashes so quickly, so clearly, they genuinely weren't expecting it.
Commander Wiseman described it beautifully in the post-flyby debrief. He said they had 5 minutes of what he called human emotional reaction, just staring at the darkened moon during the eclipse. And then the impacts started showing up.
And why does this matter scientifically? Because knowing the frequency and location of micrometeorite impacts is critical engineering data. When future Artemis crews are living and working on the lunar surface, building habitats, doing spacewalks, those tiny rocks are going to be falling on their heads and their equipment. Every data point about impact rates helps engineers design better protection.
The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter team is right now using the crew's sketches and timing notes to hunt for fresh craters from those specific impacts. They may actually be able to see the new craters from orbit.
And there's a beautiful human moment buried in all of this too. During the flyby, the crew proposed names for 2 previously unnamed craters on the lunar far side. They suggested Integrity after their spacecraft, and Carol in honor of Commander Wiseman's late wife. Those names have been submitted to the International Astronomical Union for official consideration.
That stopped me in my tracks when I read it. History made, names written into the moon.
Moving now to a story that has absolutely nothing to do with Artemis, but is just as extraordinary in its own way. Astronomers have just identified a brand new class of stellar objects, and they've named them Gandalf and Moon-Sized.
I'm immediately interested.
As you should be. So, context. When a star like our sun runs out of fuel, it eventually collapses into what's called a white dwarf, an incredibly dense Earth-sized remnant. These are common. We know them well. But when 2 white dwarfs in a binary system collide and merge, the resulting object can be strange.
Define strange.
Ultra-massive, highly magnetic, rapidly rotating, and, this is the weird part, emitting X-rays even though they're completely alone. No companion star, no material being pulled in from somewhere else, just X-rays from a solo stellar remnant.
Normally, X-ray emissions from white dwarfs come from accretion, one star stealing material from another, so to see it happening in isolation is genuinely new.
Exactly. And researchers at the Institute of Science and Technology Austria, ISTA, have now confirmed 2 of these objects share 5 distinct characteristics: ultramassive, highly magnetic, rapidly rotating, companionless, and X-ray emitting. 2 is enough to define a class.
And one of them is surrounded by a half ring of ionized gas, trapped in its own asymmetrical magnetic field, hydrogen emission spectra that looked like, and I love this description, cat ears.
Cat ears. The spectral signature kept switching between 2 peaks in sync with the object's 6-minute rotation period. Something no one had ever seen in a white dwarf before, which is why they named it after the Tolkien character who famously speaks in riddles.
Gandalf, who likes to speak in riddles. That is perfect.
And Moon-Sized is its companion in this new class. A white dwarf so dense that a mass equivalent to our entire sun is compressed into something roughly the size of the moon.
I need a moment to process that.
Take your time. The universe will wait.
So, what does it all mean? Are there more of these out there?
Almost certainly. The researchers say finding 2 objects with 5 overlapping features is, and I'm paraphrasing here, more than enough to start a search. The hunt for more Gandalfs and Moon-Sizes is on.
Now to the red planet, and a story that offers a rather sobering perspective on humanity's ambitions there.
New research published this week suggests that Mars's surface was never really a viable candidate for life. Not just now, but potentially at any point in its history. Scientists at Universe Today have been covering a study that consolidates a growing body of evidence: radiation bombardment, toxic perchlorates in the soil, and the near total absence of a protective atmosphere.
We've known for a long time that Mars is hostile now. The question has always been whether there was a window, billions of years ago, when Mars had liquid water in a thicker atmosphere, when life could have gained a foothold.
And the emerging picture is that even then, the surface may have been too brutal. The radiation levels alone without a magnetic field to deflect solar particles would have been devastating to any surface biology. Whatever life Mars may have had, if any, would have needed to be underground almost immediately.
which actually makes missions like Artemis even more striking by contrast. Earth got it right. We're here. We evolved. We survived long enough to send 4 people around the moon on iPhones. Mars just didn't make it.
The subsurface is still the focus of active scientific interest. There may be liquid water deep below the Martian crust. There may be microbial life sheltering from the surface hellscape. But the romantic notion of ancient surface life basking under a warm Martian sun, the science is increasingly against it.
And it makes the search for life elsewhere feel even more precious, and the protection of life here feel even more urgent.
Well said. On to something a little more uplifting, at least visually.
Sky watching time, and this month's night sky is offering up a genuinely lovely alignment. 4 planets are currently visible together in April skies: Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and Neptune.
Now, Neptune you'll need binoculars or a small telescope for. It's not naked eye under any practical conditions. But Mercury, Mars, and Saturn are all available to the unaided eye if you know where and when to look.
For our Southern Hemisphere listeners in Australia and New Zealand, the best viewing window is the eastern sky in the hours before dawn. Mercury is the trickiest. It's always close to the sun. But right now, it's at a reasonable elongation and worth hunting for.
Mars has been a reliable presence in our skies for months now. And Saturn is that beautiful, steady, golden glow that never twinkles the way stars do. If you grab even a modest pair of binoculars and point them at Saturn, you can make out the ring system. It never gets old.
This is a great time to get kids outside and look up. 4 planets at once, Artemis II coming home tomorrow. The timing couldn't be better for a bit of genuine wonder.
Clear skies permitting, check the Star Walk app or your local astronomy society for specific viewing times from your location. Links as always in our show notes.
And we close today with perhaps the most delightfully human story of the entire Artemis II mission.
You know, amongst all the orbital mechanics and the heat shield engineering and the science about micrometeorite impacts, there's this other story quietly running alongside it all. The 4 Artemis II astronauts brought their iPhones.
Not to make calls. There's no signal 252,000 miles from Earth. But NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman made a deliberate decision to allow the crew to bring iPhone 17 Pro Maxes on board as personal cameras. The idea was simple: give the crew the tools to capture their own story.
And they have. Christina Koch and Commander Weissman used the iPhone's front camera, the selfie camera, to take what are being described as genuinely the greatest selfies in human history. Their faces softly lit from inside the cabin, and behind them, suspended in the black of space, our entire planet, a pale blue crescent, from 250,000 miles away.
The EXIF data from the images shows they kept the camera on default settings. No special filters, no complicated exposures. Just point the phone at the window, press the button.
And then there's Reed Weitzman during the lunar flyby, turning off all the cabin lights so there's no reflection on the windows, zooming his iPhone 17 to 8x and photographing Chebyshev crater on the far side of the moon, a place that had never been photographed by a human holding a camera in their hands before.
You could argue Apple should just retire the Shot on iPhone ad campaign now. It has been definitively won.
The crew has reportedly shot more images on their phones than through the professional Nikon cameras, and NASA says everything captured will be made publicly available within 6 months. So there's a lot more to come.
There's something quietly extraordinary about this story. We're in an era of such technological sophistication: orbital mechanics, deep space navigation, radiation shielding. And yet, one of the most resonant moments of the entire mission is 4 humans far from home pulling out their phones to take pictures of each other.
Because that's what people do. That's what we've always done. We go somewhere extraordinary. We look at each other. We press the button.
That's humanity right there.
And that is Astronomy Daily for Thursday, the 9th of April, 2026. We'll be back tomorrow with everything you need for Artemis II Splashdown Day. Set your alarms.
You can find us on all major podcast platforms. Search Astronomy Daily or head to astronomydaily.io. We are on X and Instagram as Astro Daily Pod, on TikTok, YouTube, and Tumblr.
If today's episode gave you something to think about, or if the Gandalf story made you look up at the sky a little differently, share it with someone. That's how we grow.
From all of us at the Bytes.com podcast network, clear skies, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Goodbye.
Astronomy.